Good evening, everyone. The Clover School District Board of Trustees welcomes you to today's monthly business meeting. CSD Board meets formally twice a month on the second and fourth Monday, one work session, one board meeting. The business meeting format is as follows. The board will follow its approved agenda. During the public forum, attendees electing to speak will have 3 minutes. The board chair will address all speakers to provide the rules for public forum. Following public forum, the meeting will continue with the remaining presentations on the agenda. Following each presentation, the board will have the opportunity to ask questions before moving to the next. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to be followed by the invocation. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you for the opportunity once again to meet tonight, and I thank you for giving us the chance to come together as a group and always be respectful and courteous to each other, regardless of opinion over matters. I also ask that you bless our children, our staff, and the other folks that run this district. Amen.
Without objection, the board will approve the agenda for tonight's meeting. Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Without objection, the board will approve the minutes from the previous meeting. Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Without objection, the board will approve staff personnel as presented in executive session. Hearing none, staff personnel is approved. Next, we have public forum. Ms. Cody, will you read the sheet? When I call your name, come forward, but let Ms. Cody read first before we get you up here.
Any individual desiring to speak must sign in and give his or her name, address, and the group, if any, that he or she represents. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Groups making a presentation should choose one spokesman to address the board. It is not necessary for others to repeat the same ideas, but they may add something that is pertinent. Speakers may only address school operations and programs during public forum. The board will not hear personal complaints about school personnel or persons connected with the school system in public session. Persons appearing before the board are reminded as a point of information that board members are without authority to act independently as individuals in official matters. Thus, questions may be directed to members, but answers must be deferred pending consideration by the board. The board will receive public forum presentations as items of interest and will take no formal action on these matters, nor will it participate in a debate concerning these matters. Board members may ask questions or respond to matters for the purpose of clarification.
Thank you, Ms. Cody. First up is Mr. Keith Bagwell.
How are you doing?
Good,
I apologize. I'm going to read just so I can keep it within the 3 minutes. I do apologize for not making eye contact with you.
You're good.
Members of the board, Dr. Quinn, we've been in contact with you so many times in the past month. I feel like we should add you to our Christmas card list. We should sway you in any way. That way, I would do. But in all seriousness, I do hope you see through my families and other people in the community off Montgomery Road, specifically here in Cove, how passionate we are about our school. For operational insight, I want to share with you that I do work for a billion-dollar company that has the privilege of serving millions of patients each year, hundreds of thousands of patients each month. One reason I absolutely love my job is because of our core value, a patient behind every sample. While our focus is analytics and data, we know that every single sample run is a person with a story. Treating each patient in that way seems to be a unique and individual way that we can strive for success as a business. You and I serve people differently, but I'd like to plead for your humanity and remind you that beyond your spreadsheets and maps, every number you effortlessly manipulate across the page is actually a real child with a story. Every move has a potential of benefits and consequences. Even the district's motto is behind you: each child, each day, excellence. I challenge you to rethink critically, are you serving each child with excellence in this rezoning? Judging for the release of the proposal to where we are today as a community member, I don't think that you've heard us quite sincerely. You continually speak of potential students not yet here, while leaving behind the students that are actually here. What has been the point of these forums in the past 3 minor shifts that you guys have drafted and not heard what we had said? Do you really desire to hear from the community members in hopes of continuing to create a district that strives for excellence through the collaboration of parents, students, and staff? I'm not so sure. Speaking on behalf of a small community called Heron Cove, 22 students in there, is a minuscule impact on capacity. It's a less than 2%. However, the massive consequence in uprooting these students from their school and friends are more complex to the families. I urge you to examine your decision through a lens of people, and most importantly, the children that you are supposed to serve. I've fully paused and think. Through the risk-reward ratio of breaking one of the guiding principles that you created, a small shift in our cove of being relocated, does that really benefit your numbers? Or is it just a pat on the back to be under a certain percentage of capacity? I can tell you from our vantage point, the risk is way greater than chasing a number. What you're doing is breaking bonds of our younger students that they have with their peers. It's removing a PTO vice president, classroom parents, special needs buddies, actively participating parents that volunteer their time for extracurricular activities. I could use 4 more people's time in being able to do this, but I want to come to a close. In closing remarks, leadership requires the ability to change your vantage point and view all angles when a decision arises. Please remember who you are ultimately serving in this position. Each child, each day, excellence. Is your risk-benefit ratio really honoring their best interests or a number on a page? I challenge you to be courageous, members. Do what is right for these children. Make a motion to add Heron Cove back to Oak Ridge Elementary. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was right on time.
I practiced.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Ms. Sarah Work, is that right? All right.
Well, I do too feel like I've been sending a lot of emails, but I'm here representing the addresses from 6100 to 6500 Charlotte Highway, which is the part of, like, it's the mile between West Liberty Hill Road and 5 Points. And of course, the neighborhood of Charter Oaks. I did a survey after the first meet and greet kind of like review of the board, and the majority of the folks in that area would like to be districted to Lake Wiley High School. And one of the things that was mentioned in last Monday's meeting is that it doesn't meet the clear feeder school guidelines. But I feel like that argument doesn't hold water because you've already broken that rule with Lake Wiley Road Peninsula. So I guess we kind of want to be the same as Lake Wiley Road Peninsula. And I mentioned this in the first meeting too, that the dividing line is the 2 yellow lines that go down the middle of 49. It's not really efficient for my elementary school kid to be the only kid on the street with a bus that goes down the street and everybody's getting picked up from Bethel on one side and she's the only one on the side of West Liberty, or going to West Liberty Hill. So with that being said, we wanted to just put it out there. Everyone's already districted to Bethel, just push us to Bethel too, but the overwhelming majority of everyone who filled out the survey that I even presented, I don't know who all read it, but they all want to be districted to Lake Wiley High School. And we feel like, again, the argument that it's not a clear feeder doesn't hold water because you've already broken that form with the Lake Wiley Road Peninsula. So I hope you will reconsider. At least the houses from 6100 to 6500 Charlotte Highway, and Charter Oaks for Lake Wiley High School, and then my little house, 6401 Charlotte Highway to Bethel Elementary. So, well, I mean, even the 6100 to 6500, there's only 4 houses on that side of the road, but again, to Bethel Elementary. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Quinn, Superintendent's report.
Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you to those who are joining us on our YouTube channel. First up tonight on the Superintendent's report, we have the Academies of Clover. I'm going to ask Ms. Shelton Kimball, our director, to come forward, and anyone that she has presenting with her. I see Dr. Cather back there. So, dynamic duo that they are. If you'll come forward and tell us a little bit about the Academies of Clover. We've rebranded and renamed them, so we've moved on for that, but we've also made a lot of changes this year, so I'm excited to hear about those changes.
Thank y'all so much for the time to just kind of update you. We've set some goals, but just some of the goals we met last year. We're really proud to share that with the school board. What we aim to achieve this year, and I apologize, I don't know what happened to my O there. Impact students will pass at least 70% of their classes each 9-week grading period. Those are the students we do serve in the alternative program. We did set that for a 9-week grading period because that is the time frame that they are there with us for sure. And we feel like that's a good measure of the impact we're making with them. That our CVA students will pass 90% of their classes each semester. Again, CVA is a semester-long commitment, so we felt like that was the best way to measure that data point. That 70% of impact students will level up at least 2 times, excuse me, each 9-week period. Leveling up, it has to do with their behavior. Our students are there for behavioral reasons, so setting those goals and helping them get to level up at least twice. That 80% of our impact students will have 90% or better attendance rate, and that we will implement a school-wide economy system with students as a way to link their point system to real-world practices. We're trying to teach them about balancing a checkbook and about buying some of their incentives so that they really understand that money system and how some of that works. Our mission is to prepare each student for life beyond the classroom by equipping them with world-class knowledge and skills necessary to becoming lifelong learners and assets to their community. And so some of the things that we are working towards this year is to do more science labs, life skills labs, cooperative learning activities, and business partners. We're hoping that, again, bringing these things that happen in the real world and making school linked to that will help these students be more successful.
We've also added middle school CVA, which we're very excited about. We're starting small and wanting to grow that program. We've added 25 slots to our middle school program. We're starting the year with 3 students, but we're having enrollment at the beginning of each 9 weeks, so we're hoping to grow that program and serve those students who want a different learning environment. CVA has continued to grow. In the fall of last year, we had 40 students, 133 of 139 classes passed with a 95.68% pass rate, 129 credits earned. In the spring, similarly, we had 38 students with a 90.5% pass rate and 121.5 credits earned. Let's see. One of the biggest things that we saw in the shift that we tried to make last year was really having a more hands-on approach with our CVA students. We used the MTSS process to help us identify students earlier who needed support and getting them that support so that they knew that there was another person on the other side of the screen that really cared about them. And that was something that we really saw a large growth opportunity in, and we saw a lot of benefit from that. So we're continuing that this year as well. We're also increasing the support that our direct support from CVA teachers to the students that we serve. And we've seen a large growth with that as well.
Just a reminder, for the year last year, it was 93.14% classes passed compared to 68% the year before. So we feel like the changes we've made are working, and we want to keep moving in that direction. So in adding that middle school CVA, those positions that were approved to add a middle school staff in that building has made a huge difference in the amount of time we can spend making sure that those students have tutoring opportunities or just a touch from an adult to say, hey, you haven't logged in a couple of days, what's going on? Or do you need to come in? Or do we need to set up a meeting or do an attendance kind of intervention with you to make sure that you're being successful? So that really is making a huge impact with both of our programs. I did want to just share, we do have new uniforms this year for our alternative school. We did move away from Blue Eagle Academy as we are becoming Academies of Clover School District. And I think our uniforms look pretty sharp. So anytime you want to come by and see, several of our students are already out of uniform back in regular school clothes because they have been able to buy passes with their economy system, or they have earned the opportunity and they're tracking towards going back to main campus. And again, that economy system just really makes things real world for them. Because kids want to tell you, I don't get anything out of this sometimes. Well, you do, you just don't see it yet. So let me show you how this may help you in the future. And we're starting small because we want it to be successful. So really just getting them, again, to understand some basic principles of buying something that they want. And it's not a tangible thing, like they're not, buying a device or buying a pair of earbuds or anything like that. It's buying a pass to go bake in the mini life skills lab we have. Or I've been working with one of our seniors. He wanted to learn how to sew, and that was an opportunity we were able to give him. We don't have a full-time Passion and Fabrics class, but he was able to do some embroidery stitching on a shirt that he brought from home and make it unique for him. So those kind of things have been really powerful. Equally, we made some great strides with Impact. Finished very strong in academics. We did set some big goals, and we have big goals set for this year. But using that same MTSS process with our face-to-face students. Our baseline data was below 50% for the year before. And for last year, middle school fall semester, they passed 69.44% of their classes, and in spring semester, 89.28% of their classes. High school, for the fall semester, they passed 100% of their classes, and spring semester, 82.35% of their classes. And overall, for our fall, middle and high school, it was 82.81% of their classes, and for spring, 84.81%. So where it wasn't quite where CVA was, we're very, very proud of those students and the work that they put in, and the growth that we saw last year. I think the O's just disappeared on these slides because I know I couldn't have missed that many of them. It has to be something with the coloring, so I apologize about that. So our areas to grow, we do want to fill all 25 of those slots for our middle school CVA. I personally called, I think, like 60 or 70 parents and families over the summer trying to find those middle school CVA kids. We did find 3 that were wanting to enroll and start with us. And one of our middle school CVA teachers is in the crowd tonight, Ms. Cottom, who teaches our middle school at ELA, both for Impact and CVA. But we want to add those 22 slots. That's why we're doing the 9-week enrollment for them. So I have more calls to make. We want to make sure that we're keeping those students in our district if we can provide them what they may go look for somewhere else. We want to keep looking for those hands-on opportunities. We are aiming for that 100% passing their classes, and honestly, just 100% of those students feeling successful at the end of the year, that they accomplished something that they were able to grow. For high school CVA, we're working to build schedules that allow staff more opportunities to meet with those students and serve high school CVA, and we're looking for ways to support our students when they transition from our alternative environment back to the homeschool. That's it for us. Thank y'all so much.
Quick comment on the students you're recruiting for middle school. These are students who may have suggested that they want to leave to homeschool or do virtual charter school somewhere else, and we're trying to keep them here.
That is correct. Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Board?
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all.
Great job. Keep up the great work. And I want to come cook in the life skills class next time you do that. All right, next up, we have several policies for first reading tonight, and we're going to get those out of the way, and then we'll be able to commit some of the greater part of our session to the attendance line discussion. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Sauls on that.
Good evening, Dr. Quinn, members of the board. So as she mentioned, just want to present to you for first reading a number of the policies that we discussed last week in our last session. Starting with KBE, I want to draw your attention that while we made some changes at the last meeting or prior to the last meeting, we did want to offer one more adjustment to that language. Toward the bottom of the policy, you'll see that there is a section for SLED background checks. And the model policy indicates that we'll use SLED, but we also use another organization, BIB, so we wanted to propose to change that language to include an appropriate background check agency. Currently, we're using BIB, but if in the event that we need to use another one outside of that, we want the language of the policy to reflect that. So we are offering that revision and change after some discussion at this level. Beyond that, our policies for our board meetings and live streaming, there was no other discussion that was offered at last week's meeting, but we are still open to any revisions that you might have for us this week. And then the same for our policies regarding staff compensation and professional staff contracts and compensation.
Any comments on those are for first reading?
Yes,
Any
correct.
comments on those from the board?
So we'll move to the next group of policies. Our next deals with our unencumbered time that included nurses in that revision, but we have no further discussion that was brought up at this point, including for that policy, excuse me. Then our sexual harassment and retaliation policy for staff, the evaluation of instructional staff, and our sick bank policy. There were no other revisions offered at that time, but we are still open to any should you have them.
Anything? No. All right, thank you. Keep going.
Yes. So with our next set of policies, professional staff leaves and absences, resignation, discipline, dismissal, suspension of professional staff, and support staff leaves and absences, our next set of policies. Should you have any revisions or further discussion?
I think we're good on those.
Okay, and with that, that concludes my presentation of the first reading of those policies.
All right, you want to go to second reading? Do we have one for second reading or no?
I do not. We do have
Oh,
some policies.
Gotcha. Sorry about that, Ms.
that are
Dickey.
gonna be presented by
Sorry
others.
about that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Said help if I could read.
Mr. Chair, Dr. Quinn, and members of the board, I would like to share with you for second reading policy IKAB. And the changes are that to minimal changes just to match our policy and our practice and what we do in issuing, that we do not issue interim progress reports in pre-kindergarten through grade 1, and then just to change the language on the policy so that interim is the word instead of midterm.
Gotcha. Any questions? All right, without objection, the board will approve the changes to policy IKAB for report cards and progress reports as presented. Hearing none, it's approved. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Quinn, members of the board, I bring for second reading today, it's policy JFABC and the administrative rule as well. And this is the second reading of this. We had described before that in our hardship process, we would limit childcare hardships to grade K through 5 and utilize the transportation department within the district for grades above that. We would eliminate the caveat about students with specific physical, psychological, or psychiatric reasons. And the reasoning behind that, board, is because we provide now robust services at all of our schools. And so the reasoning behind that does not apply any longer because those services are available at all schools. We did add a section here about students that are enrolled in district programs outside their attendance zone. We use some specific examples, but this would cover all of those programs, and they would need to return to their zone school once they have completed those specific programs. So we talked about Montessori and things like that at our last meeting. Some of the other things we added into the language here, those out-of-district transfers. We talked about out-of-district, the employees that bring in, what some of the rules around that would be, that we would use considerations such as behavior and attendance, things we've used as practices and have been a part of our application process for many years now. But we want to make sure that that wording was in there as well. And Mr. Meeks, we added that specific language. You'd ask some questions about that so we could kind of quantify that to some degree. We went into some more detail about resident and non-resident employees that utilize a hardship for their students, that we would utilize the feeder patterns for the place of employment. And we have a chart that outlines the feeder patterns. If you work in a school, if you work in IT, if you work in transportation, that your options would be related to the feeder pattern of the school or location in which you're employed. So just added language around that as well. Oops. So I bring that to you for second reading tonight.
Any questions from the board on the changes? All right, without objection, the board will approve policy JFABC as presented. Hearing none, it's approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and the last part of the superintendent's report is our student reassignment and attendance lines presentation. I'll ask Dr. Hopkins to come forward and kind of sum up where we are now. I would like to say a tremendous thank you to Dr. Hopkins and his team, Matt and Ross, who are sitting in the back, who have worked tirelessly over and over every time we've said, try this line here, move this one there, let's see if we can change that. And they have done that work to perfection each time, and I'm just super, super appreciative of that. I'm also very, very thankful, board, that you were able to attend 3 community hearings and that our community came out to speak with you. I appreciate your time. But I most especially want to say thank you to our community for being active and engaged in this process. I know it has been very difficult. This has not been fun for anyone. I don't think we would all choose to do this. But I've tried to do it with diligence. We've tried to do it with care and concern, thinking through each child each day. And even if we don't end up in a place where everybody is 100% happy, I want this community to know that we have done our very, very best to try to accommodate those things. We will do our very best to take care of children wherever they are next year, and that will be a joy for us to do. So if you would now walk us through where we are, the recommendations, and board, I know you've heard from in public forum tonight as well, so we will turn it over to you after that point.
I want to also just reiterate my thanks to Mr. Hoffman for learning the software and being able to show us the results that we thought we would get with each potential move, and to be able to account for that. So thank you, Matt, for all that hard work. Before I talk about the recommendations in this next slide, I just wanted to sort of preface this with our work. For the better part of the last year, we've been working on this, working through lots of iterations to come up with a basic starting point, which we presented before we began our public meetings. We shared our guiding principles with everyone from the outset, and we always said we would do our very best to follow those. But those were also sort of subordinate to our responsibility as administrators and as board members to make sure that we use our facilities efficiently, that we set them up for growth in the future and set them up for continued success academically as they've enjoyed in the past. In addition to these 4 recommendations, which I'll speak to, excuse me, in just a minute, over the course of the parent forums, over the course of the feedback that we've received online, I want to reassure every parent that we looked at every situation, not only individually and the impact an individual move might have on the guidelines and the established criteria that we were looking at, but also in conjunction with others to see if it paired with other, it would create some relief in places. And we were able to do that in some places we were not. I will just reiterate that although we would love to put every child in the school of their choice, we will have 14 schools next semester. 13 of those will have new attendance zones. So it's very difficult with 9,000 students and 92% of the schools being rezoned within our district to maintain that. But I feel very confident that we've created a plan that will send every child to an excellent school, be it elementary, middle, or high school. And if you have any questions about any other areas after I discuss these 4 recommendations, please feel free to discuss. We went over these at the last, excuse me, at the last public forum. We made 2 recommendations at that time. Since then, we've added a couple of recommendations based on some of the feedback that we've received online, going back through, reassessing the impact and the numbers, et cetera. The Riddle Mill Road, Oak Ridge Road area, which is the end that we felt like we made a mistake, that the line created a situation that we did not intend to have created, and that we felt obligated to make that move back, and it really made sense. Oak Ridge address going to Oak Ridge Road. Another area that we looked at that we had originally moved out of the Kynard, Clover Middle area was west of Highway 321, the Barrett Road area. Very similar to Oak Ridge Road, Barrett Road is essentially the road that Clover Middle is on. It turned into Soaring Eagle when they changed that intersection. But very similar to that, and the number of population of students at each grade level we looked at very closely and felt like this was another move to be able to get back to the one of the guiding principles where we were able to on 321, and the impact was not so great, and that it created a better situation for all to be able to recommend this. A handful of students plus to remain at Kynard and Clover Middle School, and then they would certainly remain at Clover High where they would have been scheduled beforehand. One issue that we looked at very closely since the second forum, and certainly a lot of feedback, was the area around Old Cambridge Circle, which is the stoplight right across from 557 where it ends on 55. Excuse me, you go across that Old Cambridge Circle, then it comes out by Founders. When we were drawing the lines, it made sense to be able to come out and make that left turn, maintain them at Kynard, Clover Middle School, et cetera. One thing that we neglected as we began looking closely and as we let them know that several of those properties actually back up to what will be Roosevelt Middle School. They share property lines. And so the recommendation for us was to create a situation where just those students, and I can't remember the number off the top of my head of middle school students this year.
It was
Matt,
like
do you
10.
remember?
I think it was
8 or 10 middle school students in that area, to allow them to, they would still go to Larn, still go to Clover High School, but rather than go to Clover Middle School, attend Roosevelt Middle because their property is adjacent to that. They share a property line. And the last area that we began to look at is the South Parham and Little Branch area. Several concerns brought to us about that area. As we began to investigate that a little more closely, we found some of those concerns to be valid. We felt like we could make some changes there that would certainly help not only Bethel, but also the balance of the high school level down the road. So we will recommend this change as well, which will assign that area to Bethel Elementary, Roosevelt, and Clover High School. As I mentioned, these were not the only issues that you became aware of, not only during the forums, which I appreciate most or all of you being able to attend each one of those, but we, especially Ms. Moore, was very diligent in sharing several times a week the updates that we got online. We were able to organize those for you, bring out the common themes through that, share those, and have an opportunity to discuss those. And as I mentioned, look at each one individually, how it impacts and how it might fit in with other changes that were coming. And so our final recommendation is for these 4 areas. That being said, if there's any discussion on any area that you would like to have or question, I'll be happy to answer that for you.
Any questions, board, on the 4?
I think they make sense. I mean, listening to the same, being at the forums and listening to everyone, I definitely want to speak up and say thank you again. This has been very tiresome process for us, and we've not been looking forward to it for several years since the bond was passed. I mean, we've all talked about getting to this point and how hard this was going to be for us. I want to thank Dr. Quinn. I know that every time I called her with a question, she picked up the phone, and she was usually driving somewhere, looking at roads, and doing everything she could do to think about what makes sense and tracking distance. I know that Ross and Matt have done the same thing. You've done the same thing. So we've all kind of been out and about, and I want to thank you guys for that as well. This has been a difficult process. And without all of the neighborhoods that were brought up being in these slides, like, we've considered so many options and looked at so many numbers over and over and over again in different ways. So I just wanted to say thank you for giving us all of those each time.
Yeah, I too want to say thank you to the team for all the work you put into it. And I just want to add on to what she said around, we only show 4 recommended changes here. That doesn't mean we didn't look at all the other ones. In fact, we looked at all the other ones over and over again. We came back to you all. Every time we were presented with something, we asked for more information, crunch the numbers, draw the line a different way. Well, what if we do this, or what if we do that? And so really appreciate all the work that you guys did. It didn't go in vain, and we took every consideration very, very serious from a board's perspective. And like she said, this is one of the toughest things we have to do as board members. I just date back to when Matt and I first jumped on the board. We had to rezone in Bethany, and it was bad. It was tough. It was rough for us as board members, and this is just as tough. We even asked when we looked at some of the data and we're having dialogue with Dr. Quinn. We said, well, what does it look like if we give everyone what they want? We went that far. Just exclude all the work you've done. Just tell us what it looks like. What do the numbers look like? What does transportation look like? What does everything look like if we give everyone what they want? And we even considered it. And so, again, I just commend you guys for doing what you're doing. Thank you for what you're doing. And we know it's not easy. For me, I have 5 children in this district, 2 of which have graduated, 3 have graduated, 2 still in the district, 1 senior and 1 sophomore. And he's switching schools. And he wants to stay where he is. But I trust the district. I trust the district because he's also been at multiple elementary schools, and we've had great experiences at every school, every elementary school. And so while I know we have our preferences to stay at our elementary school, there will be no shortage of support, commitment. There will be no shortage of anything that you have at one elementary school, one middle school, you'll get the same at the next one. That's just how good of a district we are. And so I commend the work that you guys done. I'm excited about this new opportunity that we have with the new schools and things like that. And so I fully support the district in their recommendations.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that a little bit. I'm going to beat a dead horse here. I think it's important to thank our team. Obviously, you guys have put in a lot more hours with this than we have with these actual numbers, but I've been surprised. I shouldn't be because I've been here my whole life, but our community feedback and engagement has been just unbelievable throughout this whole process. So whether it's a late night email or a Facebook message or whatever it is, just asking questions and making sure that we know what your concerns are. And again, to echo what Kieran said, I think it's important that you know that we have heard everything that you have asked for. The reality is that you don't have to be a demographer or cartographer to know where the growth has come in the Clover School District. So with that being said, there are certain schools that have been hit harder with population increases than others. That's the reason that we asked for a bond. And that's the reason that we're so grateful that our community supported a bond. So we would not be able to do what we're doing now without that. And the reasoning behind that, of course, is things like classroom size. Statistically, all of our kids, my kids in the district, and he's going to be in his 3rd elementary school in 4 years, starting next year. So none of us are immune to it, but our kids deserve to have the best opportunity they can to learn in the best environment they can. I have 0 reservations about picking up mine and sending him to any school in this district. But when these classroom sizes are growing and growing, and the only way to remedy that is to build these schools, but somebody has to move. To Kieran's point, we asked, what could we do to make everybody happy? And to our team's credit, they came back to us with something that really probably would have done that, but it's just not feasible. It's not sustainable. Our transportation team, our schools would be at 100% capacity, certain ones. And then I think maybe the worst part of that, and we've talked to some of our parents about that, is, hey, if your kids stay at the school they want to stay at, we're going to be right back in this boat in probably 2 years, and you're going to end up moving to the place that you were originally going to move to anyway. So it's been extremely difficult. I think I can probably speak for all 7 of us. It has been an emotional process. We feel like we've got to make the final vote on this, and it's not an easy thing to do, but I think we're all reassured by the fact that there is not a bad destination for your child in this district. And again, we feel like we've been here and receptive to any questions or comments that you have. That will continue to be the case moving forward. We're all available to you. We appreciate your participation in this process, and just know that we have heard you, and it'll be different, but you're still in the best school district in South Carolina.
I will just reiterate one point that Mr. Burris made, that, I mentioned this at some of the meetings, but didn't mention it tonight in my preface, was that another thing that we looked at very closely was not only to be able to accommodate growth, but to make sure these schools were set up for the future. I think with the balance that we've achieved across the populations with the schools, we're in a position to be able to absorb growth for many years to come. And some of the changes that were not necessarily recommended, as Mr. Burris said, would have certainly caused pressure that would have had to be alleviated sooner than later, very likely, based on the growth rates. So I think that keeping in mind to make sure that we minimize the amount of moves anybody would make was one of our preferences that we tried to follow. Sorry, I thought I had it pointed right towards me. Okay, so any more questions or comments from the board? Okay. Quick little brief picture. These would be the proposed elementary lines. We've gone through each of these individually at the meetings, through the work session last week, and these show what the recommendations are that we just went over in the previous slide. Just to give a little breakdown of how this impacts the schools across the board, what we've done is created a table which has the 26 enrollments with which they would start next year, has the projected growth based on the growth numbers that we've gotten from York County and the town of Clover, what the capacity of the school years and what that starting capacity percentage will be. I mentioned a lot about utilization in a couple of the public meetings. It's not very efficient as a district for us to have one school pushing 100% and another school at or below 50%. As mentioned, that creates issues with class size, programmatically what we're able to accomplish. And I'll reiterate that each child, each day excellence really applies to the students and the opportunities they receive academically, athletically, socially, and artistically in each of our schools every day. Any questions about the numbers as they come out here?
Just one caveat, that the accommodations for staff are in the current schools that the staff member work. When their staff changes, those numbers will move around. So I always want to say, when you see numbers move, there are logical reasons for that, but I wanted to be sure that that particular column, we highlighted that.
Right, and as Dr. Quinn mentioned, I can check the enrollment every day for any individual school or for the district collectively, and that number changes every day. There are people coming and going all the time, so.
Point of clarification too, when you say, for our folks listening that may not know what you mean when you say accommodations, the vast majority of those are
Our
staff
yes.
children that
Yes.
they may live in one zone, but their parent works at that school or a neighboring school, so these obviously open in new schools, these will all change going into next year.
Correct.
Most of those are really teachers that we hire from out of district as well. All right, let's take a look at the middle school map. Here's the middle school map. As you can see, everybody goes, wow, Oak Ridge is so small and Clover's so big, but as we know, the density really dictates the size of the area. Even with Oak Ridge, the work that we've done to try to create some space there, it's still our largest middle school and still will receive a large amount of the growth. The changes did allow us to be able to get some of that new growth in the southern Lake Wiley area, the 274 or 49 corridor where their growth is occurring, to be able to populate Roosevelt Middle School and alleviate some of the pressure of Oak Ridge. But just as a reminder, Oak Ridge has been our biggest school. We've got 2 portable buildings with 4 classrooms. We've enclosed in 3 of the 3 nests at the end of those and 1 of the 3 at Clover Middle School. And the schools have certainly expressed that they miss those areas. They use those for collaboration, et cetera. And we would love to be able to use those schools efficiently and as designed when possible as well. Any questions about the middle school map? Let's jump to the graph here. Let's take a look at the school, the enrollment in 2026, the projected enrollment. As Dr. Quinn mentioned, this is with those accommodations. And just to give you an example of the impact, a lot of our teachers at the high school that have students that are accommodated currently to Clover Middle School. We would anticipate, as an example of those shifting, that many of those would go to Roosevelt Middle School because it's right there. So that's just an example of how those accommodations could flex a little bit over the next year. We've got a column for enrollment with growth. That's addressing the anticipated and improved growth in each of those areas, what the capacity of the 3 schools are, and then what the percentage will be as those schools open in 2026. And you can see it's pretty well balanced and does address for or allow for potential growth in each of those areas to continue to serve the communities well. Are there any questions about the breakdowns and enrollments of the middle schools as presented?
Now, just to point out too, with the Bethany Clover Middle School area on the map, it looks so large. We don't get there are not a lot of neighborhoods that go out there, but there are several one-off houses all the time popping up. So, and those we do not get ahead of time because that's one at a time, the county does that. growth out there, there's a ton of potential, there's a lot of land. So there's a lot of room for
And
houses.
And that sort of jumped up and hit us right in the face a couple of years ago. One of the board members, Mr. Meeks, referred to the realignment at Bethany a few years ago. Unexpectedly, Bethany was over capacity, even as we were trying to, in the process of adding on to that. So we had to make some difficult decisions in that rezoning. We did learn that even though the county reports to us developments that have been approved, we don't get a report on individual homes. We know that several individual homes, there are a few developments out there, but most are individual homes. And we also know that with the casino coming closer to an end, we feel like we'll probably experience a little more one-off growth in that area where land is. We also have some growing families where children are building homes on family land and having kids as well. So there is some growth out there, not as predictable and not necessarily as dense as everywhere else, but it is coming sooner or later. Let me get back to where I was. Okay, let's take a look at the high school map here. Here again, we talked, again about the geographic size versus the density of population. Just remind everybody that to the west, we have students with Blacksburg addresses in our school district. And we have some students that currently drive almost 18 miles to Clover High School. As you can see, these lines reflect the density of that, and they're pretty consistent with what the old middle school lines were. There had to be some adjustments made for growth. But here again, we wanted to make sure, we know that Clover High is an excellent high school. It's got a very strong track record. We expect Lake Wiley High School to step right in and maintain that standard. But we want Clover High School to maintain that standard as well. We've got two high schools that can accommodate over 2,000 students each. And we want to make sure that we were smart in making sure that we use that space that we have to be able to minimize any future changes or any recent future changes that we might have to make in the recent future to maintain full efficiency and efficient use of Lake Wiley High and Clover High School facility. Just to give a little breakdown, excuse me, of the populations of Clover High and Lake Wiley High School as they exist. Second column is the current enrollment with accommodations. You see in 2026, Clover High School, remember this will include all seniors for both schools, will be at 1633 to open. Lake Wiley High with just 9 through 11 will be at 1132. That enrollment with growth over time, when we calculate in those approved, goes to 1670 for Clover and 1401 for Lake Wiley, and you see the capacities there. Now, after that year, when the seniors go back, that changes the dynamic some. Clover, that 2027, when they're fully 9 through 12, will drop down to 1330, and 9 through 12 for Lake Wiley will be 1529. And you can see that we're still within about 6 percentage points of utilization of those buildings, which is good. And we feel like that the areas that we've designated for both are either maintaining Clover High School residents or Clover High School enrollment, or being able to move hopefully more efficiently for them to Lake Wiley High School. We feel like we've set this up for both high schools to have success with enrollment and programmatically into the future. Are there any questions about this table?
Any questions?
Just a statement, I would just say in the community meetings, when we show capacity percentages, we also showed a 5-year plan, right? But in these charts that you're showing today, it's just for next year.
Just for next
Just
year
for
on the
next year.
capacity percentage, yes.
Okay.
Well, it's for, 26 and 27,
Yes,
for 2 years.
right.
And then for the high school, that senior class is the.
Yeah, but I think it's been the going thing, even with the elementary slides and the middle school slides, you just show 26,
Right.
27.
It did, correct.
Whereas in the community sessions, we showed 5 years.
We
Right.
showed the growth as
Both.
well. Yeah, we showed both. That's right.
Right, and we
Growth
took that in-
numbers are reflected in here, but not the percentage.
Right, but we took that into consideration when we made when you guys made the recommendations.
Oh, absolutely, yes, sir. And we shared those numbers
Right.
as well.
Yeah, and I mean, when we're talking about numbers, obviously Lake Wiley High School is getting bigger than Clover pretty quickly, so, I mean, this is not to say we're not gonna have to rezone a high school sooner than I would like to think, but not far down the road. I mean, unfortunately, I think we just got to look at keeping things kind of even size-wise as we go forward. So this is, I hope it's 5 or 10 years, but, you know, who knows what the next step is.
Who knows, depending on how fast things get built out, what may be approved. We know we're in a fast-growing area, and we know
Right.
the potential exists for that growth to be in the western part as well. But for now, based on what we know, we feel like we've really set the district up in each school for success in terms of enrollment and programming. All right. I was going to ask Mr. Ruth to come up. We've had a lot of discussion regarding, we'll call it a hardship, loosely hardship. It's not necessarily hardship as defined by board policy, but I'll let Mr. Ruth talk about this issue and how it's developed and the decisions that were made here.
Thank you, Dr. Hopkins. As you note, we have a hardship process that's in place, and toward the end of the second semester, families can apply for a hardship. We've talked about what some of those considerations may be. For 1 year, a consideration added to that for this upcoming year, and for 1 year, the siblings of seniors, the seniors that will stay at Clover High School, if they have a sibling that is in the high school the same time that they are for 1 year, they could apply for a hardship. They could elect to remain in the zone school, which would be Lake Wiley if they're at Lake Wiley. But any Lake Wiley student that has a sibling that will be a senior will be able to fill out that hardship, and then we'll go through the hardship process from there.
Gotcha. And like it says, it's a 1-year hardship for the.
That is correct. All hardships are technically
year.
for 1
Right,
year.
gotcha.
But it would only meet the criteria for 1 year so that it's not in perpetuity.
Gotcha.
And so everyone understands why we're talking about this. These seniors don't have a choice next year.
That's
So
correct.
they are staying and graduating from Clover. It would then, from that point on, their siblings can still choose to go to Lake Wiley if they're rezoned for Lake Wiley and they want to. But they have that option because the senior has no choice to stay.
Yes, it's a
Moving.
unique cohort of high school students. It will be the only cohort of students that we are assigning that don't have, that have to really go to Clover High School, because there won't be a senior class at Lake Wiley High School. So the connection to that specific senior class would then allow for that 1 year hardship for consideration.
Right. Any other questions?
I'll just say that as working out of a school and coming into this process, it definitely was not an easy thing to do. I thought teaching and all that was hard, but this was difficult too. But in working in 2 schools where we did have rezoning, I want to reiterate to everyone that no matter what school they're going to go, a student's going to go to, they're going to get that quality, just like you said, but they are also going to get that love and attention, just like any other student that just may move in from outside of Clover or the Clover School District. And when those new students come in, they're going to get that attention too. And so just to kind of ease some minds that students are going to get loved on no matter if they've been at that school or if they're coming new into a school. I think that's the greatness of our professionals, our teachers, and our staffs at our schools.
Certainly blessed in that way. Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Quinn, we have a little bit of time before we have to vote on this hardship policy. I mean,
Yeah, it's down the road.
In terms of the 1 year,
well, in terms of the recommendations, if we want to approve those or add more to it, or?
well, so what I understand is you approved the hardship policy for second reading earlier
Okay.
tonight. It does not include the siblings, but if tonight you vote on these lines, we would ask you to consider voting on the siblings getting to stay. Because otherwise, Mr. Ruth does not have any board policy to allow those siblings to stay. And we feel like that's the right thing to do since these seniors have no choice to honor that for the family. So we're wrapping this into the vote tonight that would allow us to let these siblings of seniors for 1 year to stay.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that we can't come up with another hardship to add to the policy.
No, the policies can always, at board request, be revisited. Absolutely.
Okay.
And just to kind of add to what everybody has said and to try to maybe put a finish to this discussion so we can move on. I hope everybody understands that we've looked at everything, and we understand that the people that are passionate for their children, and rightfully so, and asking us to make changes, I hope you understand that we had to make decisions for the entire district and for every child. So when you're asking for exceptions and requests for very valid reasons, and we took that into consideration and we understand that, but anytime you ask for a change and an exception to be made, it's going to cause a change or an exception to be made for somebody else's children. And we just had to get to a point to where what we did collectively, we thought was best for the district as a whole. So we appreciate the passion, and we understand that your children are the most important thing to you, but we had to take into consideration all of our children and all of our students. So we hope that there's some understanding that goes along with that. But I do want to thank the community for this process. It hasn't been easy, but I think in the long run, it's what's going to be best for all of our students and our staff as well, some of which have been overworked and overcrowded for several years. So thank you.
And a little clarity to Kieran's question and about the hardship policy. Our board policy, as of now and still, will state that a rising junior has the ability to stay at Clover High School if they request to. A rising senior, a junior that's a rising senior will still be able to stay and graduate from Clover. This is if they move out of district, if they move to, if it's rezoned to Lake Wiley High School, but the siblings would be the exception in that situation.
There's a couple of existing policies, and this differs a little bit from the sibling hardship. Going to Lake Wiley is really a separate situation than a general hardship like that. We do have provisions in policy that once you begin your second semester at any school, we allow you to finish that year at that school for continuity. We've had some students move to York, they're responsible for their own transportation, but we allow them to finish that year. Likewise, when you complete your junior year at Clover High School, you can apply to the superintendent. We give you the opportunity to finish and graduate from Clover High School. The same would apply to Lake Wiley High School when they get their senior classes in there as well.
And that won't be changing. It would
Correct.
this is just applied
Correct.
to siblings of just next year.
Correct. This is really focused in on those students that are impacted with this initial re-enrollment and rezoning. Yes, ma'am. Just a question of point of order. Before I move on to facility report, I'll let you know when to go, but I don't know if I need to step back and let you guys have a discussion about what you need to do before I begin the facilities report.
Yes, so is that we need a motion from the board to approve or to a motion for this matter?
I'll make that motion. Motion to approve the student reassignment plan as presented tonight.
Do I have a second?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion from the board?
I think we've said quite enough, Mr. Chair.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. So it's approved. Thank you, Dr. Hopkins.
Just to remind the board and everyone else that after this meeting, our public information office will make sure to get this information out and shared and posted so everybody can have access to it. All right, without further ado, then I'll move ahead to our capital projects and facilities update. Give you a little update about the happenings in construction around the school district and where we are with our new schools and finishing up some other capital projects. Excuse me. At Roosevelt Middle School, the current NGC, we've closed that out. We've got our certificate of occupancy. The only thing remaining for the work we've done at Clover High School campus, which is the site work, the athletic facilities, the fine arts facility, all that is closed out. The one thing that is holding us up with the county is stabilization, ground cover for erosion. We've been fighting that for a year. We did bring in, we had some contingency left. We brought in a seeding company. You may have noticed we've seeded some areas around Clover High School to ensure that those get germinated and get covered so we can finally close out all of those jobs at Clover High School. So we're this close to finishing that up. So I want to thank John for getting that organized and Donnie for helping make sure that happens as well. As we move through the spring at the future Roosevelt Middle Current NGC, we will be looking forward to when that school does make the transition to become Roosevelt Tigers from Clover Blue Eagles. We've met with the principal and our maintenance staff and some other partners, Chartwell's in particular, to address some changes we'd like to make over the next year to ready that school. Remind everyone that this school was renovated about 5 years ago. We made some big upgrades to this building when it became the 6 years ago when it became the 9th grade campus. Still in very good shape. It just needs to be branded a little bit to match what Roosevelt Middle School is. So we've talked about the paint scheme and come up with some ideas for that. The cafeteria seating and decor upgrade to make it middle school centric with some new furniture, get rid of some of the Blue Eagle branding, et cetera. Thank you so much. The gym floor, we've already had some arrangements made for that. We're going to get that done later in the spring, early summer, hopefully. We'll have to strip that floor, not just the finish as we normally do when we refinish floors annually, but it'll have to be repainted with Roosevelt lines and colors. So we've got that work done and ready to go. Outdoor and indoor signage, we're working with our partner, BSN, on developing that, and some play areas that we've discussed with Dr. Thomas to create some more play areas for middle school, because the high school kids don't play like the middle school kids do, so we need to make sure we accommodate that. Let's jump ahead to our two remaining big projects, Liberty Hill Elementary School. Don't have a video for you this month, but I'm going to share some pictures that weren't on your board report to hopefully show you a little more, the LMG report, to show you a little more about what's going on. Liberty Hill Elementary School, things are happening on the inside. We're still getting envelope roofing in some areas. We still got a little bit of I think the second floor slab is close to being poured. Where's John? I see him. We're at about a third done, so we're excited about that. But there are areas within the building that are already getting block fill and paint and some finishes going on the inside. So the contractor's done a very good job of making sure that they schedule where an area is finished, they can keep moving throughout the building as it's dried in and complete working on those interior finishes. Just to give you an overview, here's a picture of Liberty Hill Elementary School campus. You can see the white roof in the middle. That is the common areas, cafeteria, media, multi-purpose room. That area is dried in. Where you see the red roof will be, on top of that will be raised seam metal roof in a different color. I can't remember off the top of my head what that color is. But those areas, that front area, which is the early childhood and administration, and that middle area will all be dried in soon. So there will be things happening on the inside that we won't be able to see from pictures from the outside of the coming months. But it's coming along quite well. We've overcome our rock challenges. We think we've got everything ready. The site will be able to be finished up. So we feel good about where we are on that schedule. Here's a picture of what is the cafeteria multi-purpose room. You can see there's some block fill on the walls and some paint. So things are happening on the inside as well as the outside at Liberty Hill Elementary. Here's a side view, a little better view. This is where the buses will drop off on that big area in the middle. As I mentioned, those were the common areas, media, cafeteria, multi-purpose room, et cetera. The left side will be the two-story, classroom wings for the upper grades. Here's the steel going now for that second floor decking. They will pour concrete on that and then build the walls up. And this will be our first elementary school with a second floor. So those two wings will be 2 floors, and we're excited about getting that rolling for Clover School District. You can see the facade is getting worked on, insulation being on. There are areas where brick veneer is already going up. Don't have a clear picture of that to share with you, but I believe there's one in the board report. So things are moving on quite quickly at Liberty Hill Elementary School. Lake Wally High School, we currently are in the midst of certainly continuing, wrapping up the site package, continuing with the construction package, but we've also, as you know, we approved the athletics package, which is not the stadium, but it is the practice fields, the track, tennis courts, et cetera. So that is rolling on. Southern Builders is our contractor for that effort. Here's an overhead shot. We are actually, if you picture us standing on Cannonball Run, that road straight up is the entrance into the high school that is closest to Highway 49. So this will be the athletics entrance. This will also be the bus entrance. And as you go up, you can see to the right, the green field is the band practice field and another practice field for the school. Up ahead, you see the track under construction. The inside curb of the track has been poured, so that will be coming to fruition. They'll pour the rest of that track, and that will be a turf interior of that field. We've made the final decisions on lines, et cetera, with Mr. Courtwright and Mr. Peeler. Just to the left, upper left of that track, I'll point to the folks in here so you can see. Right here will be the tennis complex, and it will have 6 courts, just like Clover High School. Just beyond that, the baseball field is oriented with the outfield along the curb. The softball field is to the right. In the center, where this round parking lot or drive is, will be home to the concession and common area for the high school. So all of this will be athletics. And as I mentioned, this beautiful green field down here is the first one that we've turfed. We're preparing the other ones for grass, sodded, excuse me. Sod will go on the baseball and softball, and then artificial turf here. Although we're not building a stadium, there's a closer shot of the baseball field. You can see the warning track going in and the skeletons of the dugouts. Closer shot of the track with the interior curb. It will be an 8-lane track like Clover High School. Here's a shot of that band practice field, which will be primarily banned for marching season, but it will be used for other activities, excuse me, as well. Overall view of the parking, in addition to the athletics areas, the site work is finishing up the parking. You can see some gravel going down, curbing will be going up soon, and the initial layer of asphalt binder will be down, so that should be all blacked out in the coming weeks as we see. And you see the top of the new gym, the gym area, and the student entrance in the foreground of this picture. The building package itself, I want to share a little bit about the Cannonball Run entrances. We've had to do some work on Cannonball Run itself with turn lanes, et cetera, providing access. The roofing that's going on, getting the place dried in. Exterior facades is going up, and as I mentioned, the parking, getting curbing and asphalt, and interior finishes are starting to happen in areas G and H, where the first 2 wings. This is the first entrance from 49, which will be the athletic and bus entrance. You can see we've done a turning lane coming from north to south, taking that left, and then extended that turn lane from the right. We've had to make these adjustments to make sure we make county standards with the TIA, making sure we control our traffic coming in and out of school in the morning. Here is the middle entrance, which will be the main entrance of the high school itself. This will take you right up to the front door, student drop-off, et cetera. And here is the entrance, excuse me, that is the, go back to this one. This was the elementary entrance, excuse me. The high school entrance, third one, the bus entrance and athletic is this one right here. So we finished up most of that work, so we've got Cannonball Run wrapped up, so they're concentrating back onto the campus itself with curbing and asphalt there. Here's a shot of the overall high school. You can see 80% of it is dried in. The 2 areas you see in the middle were sort of a deliberate selection. Those were areas that we did not necessarily need to populate initially, so we wanted to make sure we had areas ready to go in June, but we're on schedule to get this done. But that is the auditorium area in the rear, the rounded area, and then the 9th grade wing, which is having steel placed for the 2nd floor right now, and that'll wrap up pretty quickly. It won't be too long before that is dried in as well. I'm excited about the progress at Clover High School. Here's a shot of one of the academic wings. You can see the brick veneer going up. At the very bottom, the stone veneer has been put in. This is rolling along very nicely, and then there will be metal cladding around the top. Here's the front main parking lot. I think this has changed a lot since I took a few of you out there for your last visit. Area is starting to get cleaned up and starting to look like a parking lot and a school, and getting ready for that landscape contract, which will be coming up soon. Here's a view of the gym, looking from the student parking lot side in. Behind that wall and those glass windows at the top will be the auxiliary gym in the back. You can see that block fill is on that, starting to get painted. And just a few shots of the interior. You can see there is some paint and some sheetrock and drywall going up. So these finishes will continue in those areas of G and H, those 2 first academic wings that were to be built. We'll keep you updated on that progress. Any questions about the progress at Liberty Hill or Lake Wiley? As usual, let me know if anybody's up for a visit. I still owe you one, Mr. Meeks, and hopefully we can get that done soon. Certainly things are happening fast, And so I encourage you to let me know, but we're very excited and proud of the work that John is doing to keep track of everything that's happening out there. It's a big task.
Are we on schedule to be dried in when we wanted to be dried in?
I don't know that we'll be on that exact date, but we're going to be dried in at a point at which it's not going to impact, as we stand right now, our July 1 occupancy.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, I do have one order of business for tonight. I had presented to you, and Duke Power had come in and presented some information. Excuse me, let me get a sip real quick. Duke will be building a substation adjacent to our property across Cannonball Run, very close to where the elementary entrance is. They would like to access our existing, we've got a right-of-way through our property that brings power. They need to get the substation to that. They presented several options to the board of proposals, proposed easements that they would like. After going through those options, we had landed on proposal A, which I've got a picture of right here. I'll carry the microphone for those in that can see. I know those at home can't see me paint. But here's Cannonball Run, high school campus, elementary campus. Their new substation on property they've acquired will be right here. We have an existing right-of-way, which is designated by this green line that comes across the property, sort of splits the elementary and high school. So what they want to do to connect to this substation is begin on our property right here, straight shot to connect to the existing line. We shared with you that it will be the same kind of poles. There's no threat to impact any potential future building that may occur in those areas. Spent some time with John and talked to Duke again today, making sure that when we negotiate the final easement, that we will be putting protections in for the district with regard to any damage of existing facilities, because the construction on this would not occur until after we've occupied over summer months in the first or second summer at the earliest. So curbing, asphalt, stabilization, all of that will be in play, and if any of that is disturbed, it's going to be Duke's responsibility to fix. And certainly before any easement is signed by Dr. Quinn in the district, I run that wording over. Mr. Pendleton and I look through that, talk to the entity that is asking for that easement, make sure that we're protected in every way possible before we execute any easement. So as proposed, the approval I will ask for tonight is that we approve the easement to Duke for power lines at Lake Wiley High School as presented, and that would be in option A, which I showed you the picture of right here. Certainly the next step, we're not signing anything tonight. We would certainly negotiate the final terms of that easement and what it contains before we sign off on anything, but this would allow them to continue with their process of planning to supply power to the growing area around Cannonball Run.
Any questions from the board? Without objection, the board will approve the proposal for easement at Lake Wiley High School and Liberty Hill Elementary School to connect existing lines, which will serve the new substation on Cannonball Run. Hearing none, it's approved.
All right, thank you all. We'll get into negotiations with Duke about the details of that easement. Thank you very much. And that's all I have tonight if there are no more questions.
Thank you, Dr. Hopkins. Mr. Love, if you'll come forward for our finance report.
Dr. Quinn and members of the board, I have a relatively short report tonight because this time of year there's not a whole lot going on. We're in the middle of audit season. You'll notice through August, he thought I was going to take a swig of that. You'll notice we have received thus far $10,900,000 of revenue, and we have spent $24,267,000. That's normal this time of year because we've not collected any taxes which have not been billed yet, and the state doesn't normally start paying us a complete amount of the normal monthly allocation until October. We won't turn around in terms of spending more than we take in until January. I have the standard report that we have, the printout of our general ledger so people can look at that. I know it's very small, but it turns into the same numbers in the year-to-date revenue and expenditure columns that I've showed in total. I go through these fairly fast unless you have a question. A couple things to share with you. We have started the year-end audit. Our audit has to be completed and turned in to the state by the 1st of December. We will have ours by the end of October, or at least early November, so we know where we stand. We are in the process of rolling over and refunding the current ban, and we will issue the last $36 million of the $156 million bond proceeds. That will get us through the completion of the high school as we understand it. And then when we finish the total cost, we'll know where we stand. If we need to borrow any more money or transfer some somewhere, excuse me, that's frog in my throat. This is in line with our normal plan that we have discussed from time to time. We will be in a 12-month ban. This time we will not issue the full $156 million of long-term bonds until this time next year. That was our plan, that we keep going, so we keep rolling till we know where we are before we get to the final dollars. So that's where we are in terms of finances. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Of course.
Any questions from the board? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thanks very much.
That concludes the
that's it.
superintendent's report and all other reports, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Can I need a motion to end our business meeting?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all for coming.